Hello, everybody. I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and welcome to the Charlie Tolhurst Show for today, the 27th of October, live from, this place, a makeshift studio in Sheffield in a Travelodge hotel, because I'm refereeing at this weekend's British Junior Squash Championships. So I am moving my show tonight because on a Thursday, because I've got a busy old weekend, but in terms of news will dominate the agenda tonight. I'm joined by late party supporter Zach Chambers for all the latest news. Hello, Zach.
The show goes on. Hello, Charlie.
Hello, Guy. Hello, Zach. Now, obviously, I haven't got headphones on tonight, but I can still talk through my screen, and I'm all turned up. I'm all mic'd up now. Let's get on with the show tonight. Now, wow. Can I start off with a new appointment now? Rishi Sunak becomes the latest new addition to number 10. He was elected Prime Minister on Tuesday after two front runners pulled out, Penny Mordaunt and Boris Johnson. So Rishi Sunak now has a cabinet confirmed, featuring some MPs going back, or politicians going back, should I say, to original positions like Dominic Raab going to Justice Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister, Kemi Badenoch being reappointed to International Trade Secretary and Equalities Minister, and also Suella Braverman going back to the Home Secretary. It is a mishmash of Truss and Johnson's cabinet in one, and the Conservatives have made an interesting decision with Rishi Sunak because he's just announced a U-turn on banning fracking. So we're going to come on to that in a minute. But it seems like Starmer and Sunak have a clash at PMQs over the Home Secretary's appointment. Now, Zach, what have you made so far to the first few days of the Rishi Sunak premiership here in Britain?
Well, what a week again. We thought one moment that Boris Johnson was going to stand. Then he pulled out, despite the fact he had well over 100, just over 100 nominations to, get to the next stage of the Conservative leadership race. And he pulls out, typical Boris Johnson fashion. And they all coalesce around Rishi Sunak, who just about got enough views. I mean, not views, but nominations, to push him over the threshold and push Penny Mordaunt below the threshold. And there we had a Sunak coronation on the Monday, in office on Tuesday, Prime Minister questions on Wednesday as well. It's been quite the week, not without its controversies, though. I mean, Sunak's made a much more conventional start as Prime Minister, you have to say. He's got all cabinet from all sides of the Conservative political aisle. Some Liz Truss nights, some Johnsonites, some new Sunak nights, some interesting new faces, some very typical faces. One statistic I found this week, I think it was 7 or 8 of the cabinet are women compared to, I don't know how many women were in the previous cabinets, but there's a lot more man, a lot less women in this cabinet, let's just say. Let's go through some of them, as you can see in front, Charlie. I mean, Sunak, obviously, the Prime Minister. Dominic Raab, you may remember his little face. Wasn't he? Oh, yes. Justice Secretary and Deputy PM. Heard that somewhere? Yes, it's the same role he had under Boris Johnson before the dying days of his cabinet. Jeremy Hunt is, for continuously mad, is remaining as Chancellor. The autumn statement has now been delayed from what was due to be Monday until I think it's November the 17th now. They've delayed that the medium-term fiscal plan. It's now going to be a full autumn statement. That's going to now. Well, we've got a few more weeks to wait for that, unfortunately. Difficult decision ahead. 103 possible options the Treasury have been looking up on that one. It will be very, very interesting to see what the Conservatives do. There won't be without controversy. Sunak has got to, and the Chancellor has got to make a difficult decision ahead. Now, let's get to the most controversial one. Suella Braverman resigned her job because of multiple breaches of the ministerial code, due to the fact that she's sending personal information for a personal email to other colleagues that were not authorized to see it. That was 6 days ago before she got the job back again. Some say there was some sort of grubby deal that Sunak and Braverman did so that she could get her own job back. Maybe it's that Sunak and Braverman are more aligned on immigration than some people think, that, she needs to be in the Home Secretary role, but that's not come without controversy, I have to say. And I have to say as well, that's quite a national security risk, putting the one that's leaked sensitive information back and broke ministerial code multiple times, calling the former party chairman Jake Berry, and into multiple breaches. Very, very interesting choice. I have to say, not one without controversy, you must admit. James Cleverly, the MP for Braintree, remains as Foreign Secretary. Not surprised there. Ben Wallace remains as Defence Secretary. Not surprised there. Nadine Zahawi is now the party chairman, replacing Jake Berry. Some would say it's a bit of a downgrade for him. I think he seemed really happy about the fact he got the party chairman role, because he's running the core logistics of the Conservative Party now, as the actual party, not government, but you know what I mean. Oliver Dowden, you may remember him, resigned when the Conservatives were embarrassed at the Tiverton and Hobbiton by-election, and so was Wakefield. He resigned as a result of the results. He comes back to run the whole machinery of government as Cabinet Office Minister and the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster as well. So he's running the machinery of government now. He probably will be happy with that role. Therese Coffey, Liz Trosserite, Boris Knight, all lots of them, goes from Health Secretary to Environment Secretary. Maybe she'll be pleased about that. She's been known to hold a few pigs in some photos with Liz Truss before, so right up her street. Grant Shapps moves from the Home Office, where he was briefly there for a couple of days, to be Business Secretary. So running the UK's businesses.
Jacob Rees-Mogg is no longer in the cabinet. He resigned.
No, Jacob Rees-Mogg is no longer in the cabinet. That's a big omission there. As well, Penny Mordaunt keeps her role as the leader of the House. Lots of allies were reportedly saying that she wasn't too happy about keeping her role. She has accepted it as well, but she wanted a bigger promotion. Rumours saying that she wanted the Foreign Secretary role. She didn't get it. Next up, this is a new name to some people, Mel Stride. He used to be the chair of the finance committee in the House of Commons, and very popular among Conservative Party colleagues. He basically ran Rishi Sunak's whole campaign, and yeah, so he's in now. I have to say that's an interesting appointment. I have to say a very reasonable appointment. Another one you may not be familiar with, and one of the very few women in the role, Gillian Keegan, new Education Secretary.
She goes from the culture role.
Yeah, I think that's like the fifth Education Secretary within 12 months, which does the education system absolutely no good as well, you must say. As well, it's complete and utter mess on that front, Charlie. Complete and utter mess as well. 5 in 6 months must be a laughing stock for education, especially in the sector I kind of work in as well. Steve Barclay returns. There's another face you may have seen before as well. He returns as Health Secretary, which once again is a job that he previously had under Johnson when Sajid Javid resigned from government. Mark Harper is an interesting one into the new addition to the team as well. Used to be obviously the chief whip. Was a very loud COVID skeptic, you may remember, won the COVID research group. So it looks like someone who's not a fan of lockdowns or is in the cabinet. That's going to be very interesting. He'll obviously be in key negotiations with the rail unions, who are going to continue going on strike over the next few months as well. There's also a return to familiar name, Michael Gove. Returned to his old job as Levelling Up Secretary. Rishi Sunak made Levelling Up one of his key pillars of the leadership campaign from Boris Johnson. So obviously putting a trusted name in Gove probably helps as well. Kelly Badenoch, the rising young star of the Conservative Party, keeps her role as Trade Secretary. That's the role that it was under Liz Truss. Michelle Donnellan keeps her role as Culture Secretary.
Oh, I forgot. I thought Gillian Keegan was it. No, it was Michelle Donnellan. My apologies.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. It's Michelle Donnellan, who previously used to hold a Culture Secretary role, remains in that. The new Chief Whip will probably be Simon Hart, probably way better than Wendy Morton, who is an absolute car crash of a Chief Whip. Remember that Wednesday where MPs got bullied their way into the voting lobbies? Yeah. Hopefully, Simon Hart will have a little bit of a heart and not do that, unfortunately. Chris Heaton-Harris has got an interesting job ahead as Northern Ireland Secretary. There will be elections in Stormont in December because the parties have failed to reach an agreement to restart Stormont there, which means under the laws and regulations, there will now be a December election again in Northern Ireland will be very, very feisty. What happens in that will be very interesting to see whether Stormont resume at games or whether we're going to move closer to direct rule from Westminster. It will be interesting to see on that one. Alistair Jack remains Scotland Secretary, a role that he's been consistent in for the last few ones. David T.C. Davis is the new Welsh Secretary, previously a junior minister in the Welsh Department, remains there as well. Yeah. And some of the new ones as well, Lord True in the in the Lord's office as well. Victoria Prentice, you may not have heard that one, is the new Attorney General. John Glenn returns to his old role as Chief Secretary to the Treasury. Jeremy Quinn as Paymaster General. Johnny Mercer is a name that someone who's really criticised the Conservative Party over the last few weeks. Wasn't a fan of Liz Truss at all. Even the wife wasn't too happy with Liz Truss at all. He goes back to the Cabinet Office as a veteran.
Hans Hart will be the Minister for Security, and a return to old, as I call him, old Gav boy, Gavin Williamson, back as Minister without a portfolio. Well, that's probably to do with running some sort of cabinet office role, I believe. Robert Jenrick becomes the Minister for Immigration. Can he help out with Suella Braverman how to stop small boats crossing, given huge numbers? And Andrew Mitchell becomes the Minister for Development. They're all the MPs that are Raoul Amory travelling, Alok Sharma, even though he still retains his role as COP26 president. These are all the MPs out. James Heapy's out. But yeah, all of these are out. Looking at the polls, Sunak, 23% there, favour as woman. Honestly, these statistics are very, very interesting indeed. Now, Zach, I wanted to come on to this before we move on to the next part of the show. Sunak announcing fracking is going to be changed again. Another U-turn by the Conservative Party on this. He announced this, I think, during PMQs yesterday. What did you make to this announcement?
Yeah, obviously, fracking is going to be gone. Is a goner again. Liz Truss lifted the moratorium when she was in charge. Now it's Rishi Sunak has decided to get away with it. Probably not surprising, really. His views on fracking is well known, that it shouldn't have been happening. I think that's most of the view of the actual Conservative party, to be honest. It wasn't very popular. It was only a fringe group of Conservatives that really liked the idea of fracking with local consent. But the majority of the party was against it. So it's probably not surprising that way. It's economically good as well. But there has been some downgrades in terms of environment commitments as well. It's been confirmed today that Sunak will not attend COP27. He's sending Alok Sharma instead to that, which would seem to some people a bit of a downgrade on really a representation of the British government, given the fact that our country hosted it last year, and it was a big moment for our country. Now it appears that only Alok Sharma is going to be represented for UK, which is a bit of a poor move as well. And so a bit of a downgradement in that front. And Alok Sharma, as you know, and the climate minister is no longer as part of attending cabinet. So they are still ministers, but they're no longer attending cabinet. So some say that'd be downgrading on green commitments. We'll see by the actions and the word. I mean, there has been some, move towards it. Then that's good in terms of ending the fracking, ending the fracking, lifting the fracking moratorium. That's good, but it would be very clear to me that there are some concerns with his consistency because of the fact that he's not going to COP27, the King's not going to COP27 at this current stage as well, and that their ministers on COP27 and climate change have all been downgraded to not attending the cabinet. So, seems a bit of a downgrade in that part.
Well, Rishi's certainly upgrading and downgrading ministers, or politicians, should I say. I mean, is this like some leveling up that you get in a Mario Kart game? One time you go up, the next minute you go down. Honestly, it's really interesting. Well, I'm now going to play for you a short little clip during PMQs yesterday where Rishi Sunak was grilled on Suella Braverman's reappointment as Home Secretary. In a feisty clash, with the leader of the opposition and Labour Party leader, Sir Keir Starmer. Have a listen to this.
Was his Home Secretary right to resign last week for a breach of security?
Prime Minister. Well, Mr. Speaker, can I thank the honourable gentleman for his kind and indeed generous welcome to the dispatch box. I look forward to Prime Minister's question time with him, and I know that we will have no doubt robust exchanges, but I hope that they can also be serious and grown up. So I look forward to it. Well, he asked about the Home Secretary. The Home Secretary made an error of judgment, but she recognised that. She raised the matter and she accepted her mistake. And that's why I was delighted to welcome back into a united cabinet that brings experience and stability to the heart of government. And let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, what the Home Secretary will be focused on. She'll be focused on cracking down on criminals, on defending our borders, while the party opposite remains soft on crime and in favour of unlimited immigration.
Have officials raised concerns about his decision to appoint her?
Mr. Speaker, I just addressed the issue of the Home Secretary, but he talked about fighting crime. I would hope, Mr. Speaker, that he would welcome. I would hope that as we look forward, he would welcome the news today that there are over 15,000 new police officers on our street. And the Home Secretary will be supporting them to tackle burglaries. While the party opposite will be backing the lunatic protesting fringe that are stopping working people going about them.
Thank you there to Rishi Sunak and Sir Keir Starmer for that awkward clashing. Was that awkward clash? A feisty clash in the Commons. Zach, what did you make to it?
Yeah, I have to say PMQs have become a lot more feisty in terms of, the performance of both parties now. I mean, Rishi Sunak is certainly a much more energizing and, more hands-on person than, say, Liz Truss, who was probably more into detail or anything like that. She wasn't very well practiced. But Rishi Sunak came out very feisty. His presentation was good. I have to say, his policies, though, in tax was a bit of like, the Johnson age. It was a bit of bluster and old school attacks that we've heard before that probably isn't relevant today. It certainly have to say it will impress the public mind, certainly in terms of presentation. Whether Keir Starmer steps up to the plate or not will be left to see. But I think he's going to have to find a few tactics to prevent Rishi Sunak from getting out of his stride again, I have to say.
So Keir Starmer and Rishi Sunak will, I think, compete again next week. I'm surprised they held Parliament PMQs over an October half term. Usually I'd thought Parliament would be on recess. Well, turns out they were sitting and those two were giving up their half term to have a debate over a Home Secretary's reappointment. So, yeah, is Suella the gift to Rishi? Let's wait and see. Because I know a lot of Tory members have defected to Reform UK as of the appointment of the former Chancellor to number 10. So let's see on that. Moving on now I'm going to move over to the war in Ukraine now and talk about this. Now, it's been a bit quieter on the war in Ukraine. However, though, Vladimir Putin is still not bunking down and hunkering down in his bunker. He keeps going out and watching from maybe his World Wide Web military drills that Russia are practicing. Now, Ukraine have gained some success, I think, in Kherson this week. There's huge fighting taking place there at the moment. This is the latest feed I can gather from the war in Ukraine. Here it comes now, guys. The latest feed is approaching us. A Russian journalist and Putin's rumoured godfather has just also fled to Lithuania as well in the latest news. Now, Zach, what do you make to the current news from the invasion of Ukraine so far?
Yes, I have to say it's interesting that Russia are putting up the rhetoric again. Most certainly they are, in terms of the accusations that Ukraine have been plotting a dirty bomb of some sort. Now, obviously, we know that isn't true. When there's no such thing as a dirty bomb. that Ukraine are planning. The Russians are trying to stir up the hate factor again against Ukraine, and their ideas and their just the existence. But it appears that with all the dirty bomb accusations, it appears that Russia are looking for a pretext to a false flag, which in terms will means that something is on the horizon. And that's my fear at the moment, that something is going to be on the horizon with the accusations of dirty bombs and all that sort of thing like that. I think the Russia are looking for a fight and expect their provocation to go up even more. Military drills have been happening again. Nuclear drills. It's not uncommon for this to happen. You have to say from Russia. It's not uncommon for this to happen. It happens every year pretty much. But the timing of it is obviously very interesting because obviously with the rhetoric talk of nuclear weapons or chemical weapons being used and potentially all that. The intelligence suggests at the moment there's no nuclear weapons in the plan, but that's the current intelligence. Whether putting causes bluff and gets the nuclear weapons is another thing to see. The thought of nuclear weapons is just utterly extraordinary. We have North Korea talking about nukes, and potentially doing a seventh nuclear missile test in how many times, and Russia, rising up the rhetoric, the dirty bomb accusation that's not true, as well. Then there's pretty much, it's a very interesting time, but it's also a very worrying time as well if you think about it, with all the dirty bomb accusations, the nuke rhetoric from Vladimir Putin, who's been speaking today as well, denying the fact they want to use nuclear weapons. But as we know, Charlie, I don't believe a word they say to be at the moment. When they say one thing, they mean the other. When they do this,
they do the other.
Yeah, they do the other. So, really and truly, Russia, we need to keep an eye out on Russia again, I think, because they've been up in the rhetoric. They've had to evacuate Kherson, preparing to evacuate Kherson, which suggests to me that they're not doing very well, are they? And they're struggling again, as well. So Putin has ordered his defense minister to make a series of calls to NATO commanders this week over the potential detention of a dirty bomb, which isn't true. Today he talked about that Russia knew about incident of the so-called dirty bomb being prepared. And he also criticised the former UK leader Liz Truss for saying she was ready to do it regarding the need for Prime Minister to be ready to use nuclear weapons. He also used his speech today to wail against Western countries, the supposed hemorrhage, saying the world faced the most dangerous decline since the Second World War. I don't know whether he's been overreactive or not, but and there's going to be more blackouts coming in Kyiv in the surrounding areas in the next couple of days as well. Damage to infrastructure, energy infrastructure, power infrastructure by Iranian drones means that there's going to have to be blackouts in Kyiv with no energy as well, which is obviously extremely concerning. I think it's now time, I have to say, for Israel to start providing some air defense systems to Ukraine, because they seem to be very much lacking on that front as well. I think they need to hurry up and do the right thing. Israel, I know they're the sort of the country of peace and sort of neutral and have to have a relationship with Russia, but it's time to provide their air defense systems as well. Russian store authorities in the UK operated Zaporizhzhia ordered phone checks for local residents on Thursday, and it's an implementation of military censorship under Russian martial law. Checking the mobile phones of citizens is a very much a communist move that limits the freedom of all these people, which is extremely wrong, I have to say, as well. But the US has seen nothing to indicate Russia's ongoing annual grooming exercise of nuclear forces may be covered for real deployment, according to Lloyd Austin, as well. And an oil depot in Shakhtarsk in eastern Donetsk was engulfed in flames overnight. It caused by the mayor, which is, by the way, is a Russian-installed puppet mayor of that area, claimed that it was Ukraine shelling the railway station. Press X to doubt on that one if you really want. But yes, Ukraine, and Russia and Ukraine are certainly getting up busy again this week, Charlie. I expect it's going to be quite busy over the next few weeks as well.
Mm. Still going on, isn't it? And a feisty fighting between November next week. And wow, I mean, this conflict's gone on for ages and still nothing's been happening, massive gains and anything. So, yeah, not ideal for both sides there, especially Russia. They've lost thousands of troops during this war. So that's all I can say. Now, moving on now, let's talk about the United States now, because there's been quite a lot of news from the States, which I'm going to be talking about right now. Now, let's start with the main news here, which, I mean, most of it's been on the war in Ukraine for a start, but we have a very important time for the United States, as we're going to talk about the economic news here. The US economy has rebounded after demand stalls. So I have to say, the United States under President Biden, whatever you think happens, has been very topsy-turvy. If you know exactly what you're a Democrat voter, you're a Republican voter, there's been a lot of topsy-turvy times with Biden in charge, from the example of Rashid Sunak being pronounced the other day, to markets even tumbling in one area or going up in the other, and violent crime in a bit of disarray. So, Zach, what has it been like this week for President Biden? And do you think, and I'm going to ask, this might be a very interesting question, do you think Republicans are going to formulate a plan to impeach him?
Well, it'll be interesting. We have the midterms, which is in 12 days' time. I can't believe I'm saying it. 12 days before the midterm election, Charlie, as well. There's plenty of expectations of what could happen, what might happen, what is possibly going to happen, and what the implications of it are. But let's just say this. Talking about today's UK economy figures, yes, it's a good figure, actually. Estimates show a 2.6% annual growth rate for the third quarter. There has been 2 straight quarters of contraction previously as well. 2.6% increase is better than what was expected as well from the annual rate July through September. Showed that the nation's gross domestic product grew in the third quarter, having shrunk in the first half. Stronger exports and steady consumer spending backed by healthy job markets helped restore the market. But let's just say it's not all bright skies. I know the Federal Reserve is going to be great. It's going to continue to raise interest rates. It will probably raise it again next week and probably in December as well. And so it could well be affecting employment as well, and mortgage prices as well. Inflation is still at a 40-year high as well. So a lot of problems for the economy, and that's something that Democrats are really struggling to fight with at the moment, because it appears that inflation and the economy is one of the biggest concerns that voters have at the moment in America. Immigration, obviously, another key concern as well. Crime is really up there as well. In terms of the demands of voters as well. The expectation is at the moment is probably the House is going to go Republican at the moment. That is the expectation. Would it result in impeachment of Joe Biden? Well, Kevin McCarthy is not exactly ruled it out, but he's not going to go for it straight away. It appears that he's going to use the power of his newly led Republican committees, if that's going to happen in a few weeks' time, to be able to launch investigation into the Biden administration, probably impeach the Homeland Security Secretary Ilka Mayorkas, which will be quite a dim fight as well, and do other investigations of the Biden administration as well. I have to say, if you thought Democrats, writing about the Republicans was one thing, you have to write about the Republicans doing all these interesting investigations to Biden potentially if they win the midterm terms as well. Watch out for the Senate race as well. Nevada, we're looking closely at as well. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Ron Johnson, senator there for a while, up for re-election. Very controversial candidate, but could well do it. Madeline Barnes, the lieutenant governor, is underperforming there at the moment, as expected. John Fetterman as well in Pennsylvania is going to be interesting when he gets Mehmet Oz, Dr. Oz, as well. And John Fetterman is recovering from a stroke, as you probably are aware, as well. Although he's been hammering Dr. Oz on messages such as abortion, where Dr. Oz on the debate a few nights ago said that a abortion should be decided by a woman, a doctor, and local politicians. Okay. I'm not a fan of that, I must say. Very much an easy tagline for Fetterman. But Fetterman's health has been pretty much concerned the last few weeks as well, whether he can be capable of doing the job in the United States Senate as well. And I have to say as well, in the Senate races, watch out for Ohio, where Tim Ryan, the Democrat, is facing J.D. Vance, the Trump-backing Republican there as well. It's a lot closer race than some people expect there at the moment in Ohio. Could there be a surprise where Ohio turns red to blue? Would be very interesting. Maybe unlikely at the moment, but it's a very close race. So control of Congress is on the line in 2 weeks' time. And at the moment, expectations Republicans could do well in the House. The possibilities Democrats keeping the Senate, which remains high at the moment. It could be they remain with 50 seats or 51 seats. But with a split Congress, it could mean, if that is going to be the case, that President Biden cannot do much. Will have to negotiate with Republicans in the House. And they may not be easy on some things, such as obviously money to Ukraine is one area that's been talked about. The debt ceiling is another. Goodness me, there's certainly going to be some battles ahead in the next few weeks, Charlie.
It's going to be very, very interesting. After that gaffe the other day over Rashid Sunak.
Sunak. It's a bit hard to pronounce the name, but yeah, come on. Rashid Sunak is an interesting way to pronounce your name. It might sound better on him, actually.
I don't know. It was a very interesting way for Biden to pronounce Rishi Sunak's name there. But anyway, the United States news will continue. Obviously, Donald Trump's testification for the January 6th attacks.
Or no show potentially as well.
I'm praying that this. I don't know what the outcome of this is going to be. So it's going to be interesting how this is. I think he's been subpoenaed or something.
Subpoenaed, yeah, he has been subpoenaed. But whether he shows up is another thing. And what to do about it is going to be interesting to see. I expect knowing Donald Trump, he probably won't show up, or he's going to take the fifth, because he's pretty much a liability if he goes in front of a committee and says all these things that put him in legal jeopardy as well. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I don't think he'll turn up personally. But
we'll see what happens to the former president of the United States. Let's see if he gets back on the campaign trail, because I certainly give you the backing. Time now for the next part of the show, where we're going to be talking about the sports news. Now, we're going to come on to Formula One first. Now, last weekend we had the United States Grand Prix in Austin in Texas.
Yeah.
First race with Max Verstappen crowned world champion. And Zach, he converted world champion into a pretty confident recovery drive, despite having a slow pit stop late on.
Yeah, he pretty much very good recovery drive for Max Verstappen on the Grand Prix on Sunday as well. Lewis Hamilton, great job by him, obviously in second position as well. He led for a period of the race, and a very strong car throughout. But Max Verstappen caught up very well after that pit stop mistake. If that pit stop mistake didn't happen, the Max Verstappen would be flying 30 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. But as it was, he did well. He did really well. Someone who didn't do well, unfortunately, was the pole sitter of the race, Carlos Sainz, who got thumped by George Russell in turn one. I think George Russell got a 5-second penalty as well to his tally. He finished fifth ahead of Lando Norris in sixth position as well. Vettel got upgraded to seventh position as well, because Fernando Alonso got a 30-second time penalty after the race, after I think it was Haas. I can't remember who it was. That somebody launched. I think it was Haas that launched a protest against Fernando Alonso because he was driving without a front right mirror throughout the race. Now, there is controversy itself, because then Alpine launched a protest against the protest afterwards, because the protest was launched 30 minutes later than what it should have been. The FIA decided that Alonso's penalty was necessary because of mitigating circumstances. I don't know what the situation is regarding the protest at the moment, Charlie, which I can't believe I'm even saying that. A protest for a protest for the protest is quite a mouthful to describe. But yeah, Alonso went from, I think it was 7th to 15th or something like that. Got a 30-second penalty as well. Put the likes of Ocon up, Tsunoda, Magnussen as well, and Vettel, I think, as well, up as well. But yeah, it was an eventful race, you have to say. And they're going to be in Mexico for this weekend, the highest altitude circuit on the calendar as well. A very historic track. There's now been agreed a 3-year extension, I believe, to the contract as well today, until taking it to 2025 for Mexico. So I think it's about 3 more years of racing in Mexico City, which is good news as well. Good place to race in the calendar. Very fun crowd. Probably one of the best crowds up from behind from like Italy, Austria, Spa. It's a very good crowd, and it'll be an exciting weekend for many of those involved as well. It's a very, very looking forward to that race as well. Red Bull won the Constructors' Championship as well. With their finish with Verstappen first, Perez fourth, it was enough to give them this championship. And we saw that crash as well, where Alonso actually did finish 7th after the crash originally, which was an incredible drive by him. But Lance Stroll has got a 3-place grid penalty for this weekend due to the crash. I mean, that was pretty much a blatantly good, correct decision. Looking at where Stroll turned dangerously into the circuit. I mean, that is clear as day. You can clearly see Alonso went flying up into the air on the front. He hit the barrier just after the poking out bit as well, which meant his car didn't do too much damage. It's an incredible recovery drive as well. Just a shame he got that penalty for the mirror falling off. But yeah, that was an incredible drive by Alonso. Lance Stroll was good in qualifying, but completely ruined it with that silly maneuver on the back straight as well. Very, very silly maneuver, I think.
Yeah, hashtag do not move under braking. Romain Grosjean shows you that. He's going, actually, Alonso did do that in Canada to Bottas. I do actually remember. And he was given a penalty, which did actually drop him out of, I think, some quite competitive points paying positions. So maybe payback for Alonso, but I wouldn't say it's payback for Alonso. Stroll's moving under braking was unacceptable. It's dangerous. You should not do that, because if you get caught like that and a crash like that happens, it could be very dangerous. So that's all I'm going to say on the F1 spectrum. Moving on now to the Dixie Vodka 400 NASCAR Cup Series race. Now, we had a big showdown on Sunday at Homestead Miami Speedway with just now 2 races to go until the final race at Phoenix. And Zach, despite not being in the playoffs anymore, Kyle Larson took a very interesting victory.
Yeah, and a pretty, big victory for Kyle Larson as well. It's an eventful circuit, Homestead Miami, and the race was pretty interesting from that perspective as well, with Kyle Larson winning that race as well. Ross Chastain was probably one of the better drivers in that one, a 2nd position as well. AJ Allmendinger 3rd, Austin Dillon 4th as well. Pretty important, point safe. And Brad Keselowski 5th as well. Truex 6th, Hamlin 7th, Harvick 8th, Kyle Busch 9th, Suarez 10th. Wasn't the most eventful races as well, but there was a few, obviously, a few incidents as well happened. Now, I should point out there is actually been a penalty recently, Charlie, for Cole Custer as well. They on the 11th of October, they considered the National Motorsports Appeal today considered a behavioural penalty for Cole Custer on Kuchi Mike Split and Gene Haas as well. So they are hearing the appeal of that one as well. I can't remember what it was. I think it was for helping another driver as well. Without deliberately helping another driver, that unfairly benefited them as well. And I think they got some penalty points for that as well. They are hearing some appeals I believe today as well. The penalty issues were the loss of 50 championship driver and owner points, $100,000 fine to the driver, $100,000 fine, indefinite suspension to the crew chief. There being appeals being held today for Colchester's penalty from Charlotte as well. So we'll be interested to see what the status of that will be come this weekend as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens as well for that as well.
Oh, well, what can I say? Interesting developments happen all the time. And yeah, all I can say is that Colchester gets an unlucky penalty there. But as for the results, well, Carl Larson winning with Ross Chastain second, John Mendiga third, Austin Dillon fourth, Brad Keselowski was sixth in the number 6 Ford. Martin Truex Jr. sixth. Not had a particularly strong season this year, Martin Truex Jr. Been unlucky. I don't think he got into the playoffs as well. So
no, I was going to say
unlucky this year, despite nearly winning the championship last year. 7th for Denny Hamlin, Kevin Harvick 8th, Kyle Busch 9th, Daniel Suarez 10th. Best of the main playoff finishes was Chase Elliott in 14th. So the playoff drivers not having the best of weekends.
Yeah.
Well, all we can say is we're now going to actually check the NASCAR Cup Series playoff standings, because this is crucial now. The next race is going to be where I think the final 4 get decided. I think Joey Logano, is already through.
Yeah.
As far as I know, because he won last time out. So here is the championship looking at the moment. And this is very, very interesting. So currently already qualified for Phoenix is Joey Logano. We've got Ross Chastain second on 4,001 points. Chase Elliott in third on 4,093. William Byron remains fourth on 4,087. Followed by Denny Hamlin, 4,082. Ryan Blaney, 4,069. Christopher Bell, 4,054. Chase Briscoe, with a Stewart Haas Racing, 4,043. So there is still a chance, I would say, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney possibly would get in it's going to be interesting, probably going to get in on points, I think, here. William Byron could get in on points. I'm actually not sure if I'm reading this correctly, because obviously it says race wins. I think that's either regular season or playoffs. But it's going to be interesting. Yeah. No, regular season, my bad. Sorry. So, Zach, this is going to be very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyone from 8th to 2nd, Charlie, it can basically get to the playoff. If the driver who's in 8th, who's Chase Briscoe at the moment, wins, he'll get into the playoff. He'll get into the final 4. Pretty simple. But some of them will have to race. Some of them will have to race their way to the points. So watch out for the likes of Denny Hamlin, who's only 5 points behind William Byron. Ryan Blaney's still in the mix as well. It could be an uphill battle, I think, for Christopher Bell and Chase Briscoe at the moment. But watch out for Denny Hamlin. And I would say Chase Elliott, William Byron, and Denny Hamlin are the 3 to look out for as well. But the results will depend on if anyone from 2nd to 8th in the championship wins or the finishing results, because some of them will have to race their way on points. It's possible one of the drivers in the playoff can win and win their way to the final 4. But after this weekend, there'll be 4 left and 1 race of the season to go, where 4 drivers will race for the championship in Phoenix. Who it will be, we don't know. We know Joey Logano will be one of them. The rest of them, who knows, Charlie? Who knows? Yeah, 3 more will be confirmed at Martinsville this weekend for the Xfinity 500. So stay tuned for that one. That's on Sunday this weekend. So we're going to move on now and quickly do the reaction. Obviously, Premier League action we done on Sunday, or last week, should I say, on Saturday. I'm not doing any more games since we last spoke. So we will update you on some results, but we're going to also go over some of the results in the midweek Champions League fixtures as well, and maybe even some of the European football. We're going to quickly go over some of the Premier League action as well.
This was Sunday's results. Wolves 4, Leicester 0. I think we might have gone over them the other day. The Monday night football was 2-0 West Ham, Bournemouth. And then these are all the matches this weekend in the Premier League and the Champions League. We had some matches the other day with Tottenham drawing 1-0 at home against Sporting, Napoli beating Rangers 3-0, and Bayern Munich thrashing Barcelona 3-0 there. Zach, what do you make to the latest football news?
Yeah, Champions League match is really important, just to clarify what's going on as well. So 3 of the 4 English teams have now qualified their way to the last 16 now. Both the Scottish teams are out, unfortunately, because they've suffered loss after loss after loss. Rangers in the end, Celtic are out of the Champions League.
Oh God, something's calling.
Oh, hello.
I'm so sorry about this.
Calling us. Forget about them for a minute. But yeah, 3 of the 4 English teams have made their way now. Manchester City draw against Dortmund to make their way through to win the group. Chelsea have made their way to the table as well with win against Salzburg as well. They are now on goal difference. They only need a point now, really, to automatically win the group as well. And who else as well? Liverpool are now have also made it through as well. They could really, it's pretty much be impossible for them to really get set win first place in the group. They're against Napoli as well, who've won all their games so far in Group A. In Group D, this is where the fun bit is, because Tottenham is the only one that is not automatically qualified to the last 16. They really, they are facing, I think, what was it, next match? They are facing Marseille. No, Sporting. Apologies. They are facing Marseille. Yeah, they are. I do apologise. They are facing Marseille in the last match of their group. Really and truly, they need to win against Marseille to guarantee themselves top spot and a place in the Champions League last 16. If it's possible they could win against with a draw as well. They could win if the Sporting and Eintracht draw as well. Then Tottenham can make their way through as well. If Sporting and Eintracht Frankfurt win and Tottenham only lose, then technically, they can't really go through because Marseille would have to win. Then they go at 9, but it depends. Then Tottenham could well be facing the possibility of Champions League or Europa League knockouts, depending on what happens on the Wednesday as well. Chelsea made their way through, as I said, as well. Manchester City, pretty much the group winners now, goal difference of 5. They can pretty much make their way through now as group leaders, but Celtic are out. They can't make it. They're out of Europe again this season as well. And Rangers also out this season as well. So they could really and truly, they could win against Ajax, but that's unlikely. Their goal difference is so much now that they're probably not going to make it. They're out of the Europe as well. So yeah, interesting fixtures there. Going to match day 6, the only Spurs game really riding on something there as well.
It's going to be interesting. The football this week, obviously Premier League action will be on this weekend. I'm sure the bars, pubs and everything will have matches being broadcasted to you. And also Gillette Soccer Saturday will be on, hopefully, to give you all the latest news from the world of football. Please keep updated for all the latest scores as you go in. I think there's also, I don't know, Arsenal actually playing tonight in Europa League or Manchester United, I'm actually sure, with the Europa League fixtures. But more on that will be on the websites there in question. Moving on now to Charlie's good news. Now, obviously, it's all again going to be a showbiz theme tonight. Obviously, The Voice UK have announced the 4 finalists, which are going to be in question. Here we go, actually, with The Voice UK finalists. Let's have a look who made it to the final. We're also going to touch on the latest news from the jungle as well for the start of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, because we have confirmed date for when that is going to be airing on ITV. But The Voice UK will have, interestingly, a finalist. Team Tom will be Anthea Edwards. She won her song there with a very powerful cover, actually, of Praying by Kesha. She went through. Naomi Johnson done her version of Bang Bang by Jessie J, Ariana Grande, and Nicki Minaj. Mark Howard, from a 27-year-old estate agent from Nottingham, performed Half a Man by Dean Lewis. And Team Ollie, an interesting pick, David Adogun, Xhaka, and from Tom's team, Rachel Modis, both going home. They were some of the big vocal hitters there.
Yeah.
The final song was Easy on Me by Adele. Zach, what did you make to these semi-finals for The Voice?
Yeah, very interesting. There's a few surprises in there. I mean, there's only room for 4. So some of the singers there would be knocked out. I mean, you know, it's a very tough stage of the competition. You go from, what was it, 12 to 4 in such a short space of time as well. So, yeah, it's been a tumultuous semi-final. The final is going to be interesting as well. I should point out this year, the final is pre-recorded. The whole series has been pre-recorded for the first time, which means you won't get a vote, a live audio. We won't get a viewer's vote. It's all been pre-recorded for the first time. So David Aguirre is on Team Ollie as well. Good singer, I have to say, really good, amazing voice. Mark Howard, the one who I think sounds like he's from Take That, but not actually from Take That. He's done D-Lyrics with incredibly powerful rendition of that. As well, Naomi Johnson as well. Oh, she has been on fire as well. Her version of Black Hole Griff, and Anthony Edwards and Team Tom, really lovely, wonderful voice of her as well. Of singing Unconditionally by Katy Perry in the blind auditions as well. And you know, yeah, she was brilliant as well throughout. That was a great song. Who will win? Hopefully, I mean, I like the sound of Anthony Edwards personally for me, but it can be a close final, and all the finalists deserve to win. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably between 2 what I can think of, but I'd say it's even open to all 4 of them, because obviously I think they're probably going to do 2 performances this weekend, my guess, because I think they do one on a solo and then one with their coach. So obviously David will be for Team Ollie, Amory will be Mark, Naomi will be Team Will, and of course the final singer will be, of course, Anthony from Team Tom. And I bet the coaches will all open up the show with a performance of a song. Obviously, one year they actually done I think it was a few years ago, they done a performance where I think the script, obviously Danny performed his own version, Break Even, and Price Tag, Where Is the Love, all them songs coming on. So it'll be very interesting to see the Voice final. That will be on this weekend. I believe it's Saturday around 8 or 9 o'clock. I think it's 8 o'clock on Saturday, The Voice will be back. So The Voice UK returns with a live final. And who will win it? Let's find out.
Who knows?
Tonight, what has been announced is pretty huge for the news of the return of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, launching on Sunday, the 6th of November, one day after Guy Fawkes Night, believe it or not. We are launching I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Ant and Dec are already back in Australia after their recent COVID isolation had finished, and celebrities have been flying in to Australia. We definitely know some have been confirmed. Chris Moyles, Radio X DJ, he's on. We also know that Olivia Atwood is definitely confirmed as well. A few other celebrities still up in the air, but Zach, a few celebrities arriving. The show looks like it's finally getting together now.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly Chris Moyles as well. One of the standout, Chris Moyles is going to be really standing out for me. He's the radio presenter to be Radio 1, kind of Radio X as well. It'll be interesting to see what his personality is like in the jungle from what I've seen. What I've seen as well, let's see who else has been there. Jill Scott, do you remember the England footballer as well? It looks like she is going to join the lineup as well. It's been spotted out in Australia. Sue Cleaver, Coronation Street star, has been caught out in Australia as well. It's interesting there as well. Charlene White, Owen Warner as well. Interesting. Some interesting names as well. Mike Tyndall as well. Sue Cleveler as well. It's a very, very interesting lineup as well. You see Charlene White. Banu Alishi is another one as well. Sean Welsh.
Apparently.
Yeah, Sean Walsh as well. Interesting. That's probably going to be a very interesting personality. Some really interesting person. Olivia Atwood, Boy George, potentially. We don't know whether he's going in or not. Probably looks like it's likely as well. So, yeah, as well. So, whew, it's quite the lineup. I mean, Danny Darwin. Let's see who's actually there at the moment. We have seen Olivia Atwood definitely out there in Australia as well. We have obviously seen Chris Moyles. We've seen Owen Warner, Jill Scott as well. There's obviously a lot of other rumoured names at the moment, but we've certainly seen several of them out there in Australia at the moment, and there's going to be a whole lot more that we're probably going to see as well flying in over the next few days.
Yeah, it's only a week on Sunday, 9 o'clock. We are officially going live. But I'm really Get Me Out of Here 2022 in Australia. It is going to be very interesting, and it's dropping an iconic feature after 18 years on the show. It is going to be a bit different. I'm not actually sure what that feature is actually, but they are dropping a very iconic feature in the show. But it's still going to be great. There's going to be, I believe, some tough Bush Tucker Charlton challenges awaiting the camp. Snake Rock, Croc Creek. Oh, we'll have an update when the show comes on. We'll be talking all about it probably as soon as next week. We'll bring you an update on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here as well. Moving on now, it's time to talk about your latest newspaper headlines. What do we have in store from the world of newspapers? Well, could I just say we have quite a few to get through. So without further ado, I'm now going to read you some of the papers. The Metro goes with Royals in despair as the family is very concerned about proactive memoir title reveal. And is it Harry Styles? That is a really weird front page with a guy without no t-shirt on. I don't quite understand that. No shirt on, whatever. The I newspaper, the left-wing paper, as I call it, one of the editors is Benjamin Butterworth, call it a very interesting headline here. Sunak poll gives Tories election hope. Really interesting. I didn't think that was that was very informative there.
Day.
Financial Times goes with brutal week for big tech as investors knock £550 billion off market valuations. And there's a bunch of more papers on here as well. More should be coming out in a while. Zach, what do you make to the latest papers being released so far?
Yes, 3 papers already, and probably more coming through tonight as well. But let's look at some of them. Let's start with the Metro one as well. Oh, it's Prince Harry again. You remember him? He's been working on a book. He's obviously releasing his next one coming up soon. It's called Spare. Is that all? Spare, interesting. A spare copy as well. Do I get a spare copy? I hope I get a spare copy of the book. I don't know actually. No, we're going to get a spare copy, but I might not just decide to buy it anyway. But they've gone into the punny headline: Royals in despair. Family very concerned as Harry's provocative memoir title revealed. Publisher plugs raw, unflinching account even of Diana's funeral. So it looks like Prince Harry, after not being in the headlines, is going to give us a little bit of interesting insight into what his perspective of the royal family is and what his life has been like as well. It's a big memoir that he's big as well. Despair. It's certainly going to give the headlines as well. I'm very eager to see the contents of it because I don't think it's going to be pretty viewing for the royal family. Nevertheless, as well, but I don't think they'll probably need it at this time, given the fact they've only just a month ago recovered from the death of the Queen and all that sort of thing. It's not been long since then. Maybe could have delayed it. Probably could have been a good idea, but he's pressing on as usual, and he's back in headlines as well to the delight of Harry haters, as I like to say it, as well. So that is coming out It's a 476-page group. First of a free title deal, which he paid 36.8 million. It's out on January the 10th. As well, just so you're aware, as well. And it will be a phrase here and spare about his place to the line to the throne behind William. It's raw and flicky, honestly. Even plug the price to £28. It takes readers immediately back to the days their boys 15 and 12 walked behind their mother's coffin, as well. So that's the book that's coming out January 10th by Prince Harry, 416 pages long. Oh, going to be quite the read. The I go for they're talking about Rishi Sunak as well. Some a little bit of promising polling coming out from there, saying that Rishi Sunak would beat Keir Starmer on economy and taxes. If any blows, he make a better PM according to poll for the I. It's very much the early days for Sunak. This is probably his honeymoon period, as we like to say in British politics, as well, where new leader starts and they get a boost. We didn't see that for Liz Truss, we must say, probably because she was completely terrible at her job and absolutely going for the completely wrong line on everything that she did as well. But Sunak is making the Tories more united at the moment, and it appears that he's ready to give to the fight to the Labour leader in terms of the Labour Party overall. But there is a big challenge as well coming up for Sunak with electoral in favour. If an election was still held today, Keir Starmer would win in a landslide. Starmer comfortably beats the former PM on voter popularity. Labour 23 points ahead of Tories overall, with 61% of electorate in support of a general election before January, as well. It just proves that a pollster saying that Labour cannot be complacent, as rows over the Home Secretary Suella Braverman's return continue as well. That, I think, is not going to be quiet. That is certainly going to continue over the next few days. As well, the Financial Times go on the headline of the brutal week for big tech, and investors knock £550 billion off market valuations as well. Meta, one of those that have really seen decline, Charlie, is Meta. Their values today, their stock prices went down as well. They plunged by more than £80 billion today in value, and the reason why their stock prices went down as well. After the Facebook owner reported another quarter of declining revenues and failed to convince investors that big bets in the metaverse and artificial intelligence were paying off as well. Shares dropped 25%. As well, they warned an economic slowdown was hammering its business in terms of advertising, as brands spent less on brand marketing and challenges, including rising TikTok, Instagram, as well. So using more young people using short form apps as well. That, as you can see, their stock price finished today down 31.8 at 24.56% decline in the shares today for Meta as well. One company that's been in headline also this week is Twitter as well. Elon Musk is now the new owner of Twitter. He's now officially completed his takeover of the company. It's been a rough ride for Twitter, and I have to say, Elon Musk has been in a little bit of a fight. Musk wanted to get rid of the deal a few weeks ago. He's now committed to it. And Twitter was welcomed with open arms, and he's now moved into the company. So, yeah, it'll be interesting times now for Twitter in terms of what they do in the future as well. There's no new papers that have come out yet at the moment. So let's go through some of the old ones. The Daily Star reports, this is interesting. Rise of the zombie pigeons. Reports the zombie pigeons walk in circles, unable to fly, They're instead going to roam the streets of the UK. No flight for living dead birds. Rise of the zombie pigeons. As well, as long as they don't bite me and turn me into flesh, then yeah, I don't really want to imagine that, quite frankly. As well, the Mirror goes for talk about the Pride of Britain Awards as well. Volodymyr Zelensky is made a speech there. I believe the award show is actually airing on ITV. I think it's on Tuesday. I can't remember when they're airing it Sunday. They might have aired it this week actually. They aired it this week. as well. Zelensky made some remarks as well. They thanked as fellow Ukrainians are saluted at the Mirror Awards as well. Congratulations to everyone who won the ones there. The Daily Mail goes for one of their favourite topics, immigration. The Daily Mail said it's a headache for Prime Minister over the migration crisis in English Channel after an official in charge of stopping the crossings described the asylum system as overwhelmed. Interesting as well. New report reveals 38,000 migrants crossed the channel this year.
That's unacceptable. And I heard the other day about 80.
Albania.
Yeah, I heard about 80 the other day that came across to Kent, and one of them went over to someone's house and begged for money.
Oh, lovely. 12,000 from Albania alone. 7 million a day to build house arrive from hotels. Official admit system overwhelmed. This ain't going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting, Charlie, because Rishi Sunak obviously has picked Suella Braverman, a controversial point for the Home Office, and we know what Suella Braverman's views on immigration are. It's all good talking the talk, but whether they can walk the walk, as they say, is going to be interesting to see whether they can put it in their actions as well. Downing Street is also reporting the Times, allegedly calling silver bullet policy that Sunak plans to overhaul the nation's education system by introducing British bachelors, a network of top-tier technical institutions. Not sure how much difference that's really going to make, to be honest, quite frankly, adding a few bachelors and some...
I heard about this. It was on, I think, I was driving along today, actually, and I heard about, on the radio, I heard that there was plans for more vocational options that the Rishi Sunak was announcing.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, because clearly, to me, it's another part of levelling up that the... Rishi Sunak wants to focus on the Boris Johnson agenda of levelling up as well, with the help of Gove as well. Not really surprising in that one as well. Telegraph reporting that Sunak has reportedly reconsidered tax increases after major public spending cuts. On analysts show the hole in public finances reduced by 15 billion pounds. Well, yeah, I mean, Truss got that black hole to something like 70 billion. As well. So it'll be interesting to see if there is any tax rises, but I'm not sure. I think difficult decisions are ahead, according to the Chancellor. So, I expect tax rises will happen, unfortunately. This is not going to be easy for the Conservative Party. I suspect the public will not go along with it, unfortunately, as well. Daily Express talking about, do you really want to scrap pension triple lock again? That's a rumour. The pension triple lock scrap rumour is back again. That's one of Sunak's potential options, apparently, to get rid of the triple lock. As well, Independent goes for relief as Sunak brings back ban on fracking. I think it's a good policy, to be fair, as well. We talked about that as well. Rishi Sunak's nick fracking refuses to guarantee triple locks on pension. And the Metro goes... we've done the Metro, to be fair, as well. We've done the Eye. We've done the Financial Times. That is the papers for today and yesterday, Charlie.
Yeah, plenty of them in place. We've got no more new papers coming out, so that's all I can say. For them, now it's time to talk about the Great British Star and Red Devils of the Week. And I'm going to start off with my nominations for the Great British Star. These two nominations have nothing to do with politics. And one nomination goes to a very popular car. And it's apparently, I'm an absolute avid petrol head. I love cars. I actually own one of these. I have a Ford Fiesta. It's going to get my nomination this week as one of them, because this car, unfortunately, is coming to the end of its life in 2023. It's been on the road for 46 years. 1976 was when they first made this car. It didn't actually hit UK roads until 77. And this car here is an absolute icon.
End of an era.
And yeah, it's going to be apparently... finishing by middle of next year, 2023. Dagenham used to build the engines. Remember the XR2s, the XR2Is, the 1.6 litre engines. They went 0 to 60 in 8.7 seconds. Oh, it was brilliant. And it was created as originally a fuel-efficient small car in the wake of the 1973 oil crisis. More than 20 million have been built. It was the best-selling car till this year when the Ford Puma outsold it. Ford claim that they want to build more electric cars. It's as of the 2030 ban on new petrol and diesel car approaches. Its Ford Puma will be a smaller hybrid SUV to take the lead for a more affordable option. as full processes and focuses more on designing that. Oh, I tell you what, there's so many people out there who have had this as their first car and had the Fiesta and have grown up with the Fiesta, had it during their childhood, and yeah, some people have never. I know a few people who've owned Fiestas throughout their life, and this is going to come as a huge shock to everyone. And there'll be a full video on my YouTube channel, guys, coming up this weekend about my reactions to Ford announcing the retirement of this beloved car. Also, another nomination goes to music sensation Taylor Swift, because as you know, I was actually driving my Ford Fiesta today, and I heard this new song come on Capital Radio. It's called Anti-Hero.
Anti-Hero.
And it's the newest song from Taylor Swift's Midnight's 3 a.m. edition album. Because apparently I have to say, I know the music video's been accused of stuff, but I'm not going to go into it here because this song is actually all about anxiety, and it's a very important song. Because actually, this could potentially be Taylor Swift's biggest #1 hit for quite some time. It's rumored that this song could hit #1 on the charts, on the trending charts. The new charts were actually released in 19 hours time. So could we see Taylor Swift be on the charts with Anti-Hero? Wonder what that's going to happen. Well, my Red Devils this week, well, I have to give one Red Devil, and this is a controversy. Just Stop Oil get another Red Devil, because what the hell are they doing? I mean, goodness me, you attempt to mock a waxwork of Prince Charles. It honestly is like if trying to throw a pie in his face. Honestly, what the hell? Madame Two Swords with climate activists in. Come on, honestly, unbelievable. What is this mess? As well, maybe Rashid Sunak would be very interested to find out. Joe Biden is certainly very interesting here. And another nomination goes to the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan. Now, I have to say this because the Mayor of London is planning a extension to the ULEZ zone. Oh my goodness. ULEZ extensions coming. Possibly, I've been hearing reports Surrey could get included as well on the list. And he's also just had the announce that he removes the pledge to fight toxic air in street by street. I have to say, this man leading London, is it making London just? I feel like is London becoming more low paid with him in charge? I don't know. Crime clearly on the rise. That would you make to the latest nominations to my Stars and Red Devils?
Yeah, interesting. I have to say, some interesting choices, nevertheless. Let's get to my ones actually. The British Star this week. I'm going to give it to Russell Crowe. And you're wondering why I'm going to give it to Russell Crowe. That he has made a donation to a small shop called Bookbugs and Dragon Tail as well. That is a small shop. It's a small bookstore. Obviously, apologies. That obviously sells lots of books. Its survival has been in danger, though, unfortunately, because of COVID, cost of living, people doing online stuff as well. Unfortunately, it's meant that the shop has been close to danger. And then Russell Crowe came along and brought in a huge donation as well. I can't remember they didn't explain the exact amount that they bought. Russell Crowe brought in, but they did. The owners, Leanne Frid and her husband Dan, they had to launch a crowdfunding to do more school literacy outreach and gave business a breathing room. And the crowdfunder, if I'm correct in saying at the moment, has raised an incredible £22,260, with Russell Crowe being one of the big donors as well. It's incredible as well. £6,000 I would pay member staff to cover shop for 1 day a week. 2,000 would allow them to pay facilities to develop and deliver the outreach. £7,000 will comfortably face the next 6 months by contributing to rent rates and utilities in the shop. Now, whatever Russell Crowe donated, unbelievably, he donated enough to save the shop. I'm going to give Russell Crowe the Great British Star for saving a bookshop this week, Charlie. It's been incredible. Fair play to him as well. And what a man, I have to say. Lovely, lovely donation as well. Red Devils this week. Suella Braverman gets my Red Devil for the security breach and the fact that she's still in cabinet. I mean, God, someone who apparently been watched by MI5 and everything like that. And the fact that Rishi Sunak decided to interestingly put him back in the cabinet, despite the fact that she's much security breach is really concerning, and the fact this is pretty much a distraction from government and everything like that as well. And I don't know who else to give it to this week. I mean, you could think of a few. Just Stop Horrors could be one of them, as you said, Charlie, as well. That could be one of them as well. But I have to say, Suella Braverman, Russell Crowe, they are Russell Crowe's the British Star this week, and Suella Braverman is going to be the Red Devil this week for me in terms of my picks.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how we get on over the next week. Plenty of new nominations. It's rare I do this show on a Thursday, but it's interesting to get a different perspective of the news. As you can tell, we've got all that in question. Thank you for watching, everyone, tonight on YouTube. I hope you've been great company. I'm your host, Charlie Tolhurst, live from a temporary location tonight, 3 hours up north in Sheffield. All I can say, guys, is I have a busy weekend to get on with, and I'll see you again next weekend for the Charlie Tolhurst Show. So just over a week for us to get some new news stories in, discussing them next weekend. And also tune in as well to watch I'm a Celebrity as well on ITV. It would be great. Thank you for watching, everyone. Take care and good night.